Okay, let's really get into this. Imagine this scene. Students, right? In school uniforms, setting Parliament on fire. It sounds unreal, but this was Nepal, September 2025.
It was quite something, a really intense situation.
Yeah. So today we're doing a deep dive into these recent Gen Z protests there. It started, seemingly, with just a social media ban.
Right.
But it blew up fast, became this huge youth uprising against corruption, bad governance, economic problems, a whole lot.
Decades of issues bubbling up.
Exactly. So our mission here is to unpack the sources you've gathered, figure out the triggers, the impact, which was devastating, and what the path forward might even look like. It seems pretty precarious.
Very. And it's fascinating, how it kicked off. September 4th, 2025. It was, on the surface, just an administrative decision.
What was it exactly?
A nationwide ban. 26 social media platforms, Facebook, X, YouTube, the big ones.
Okay, and then the official reason?
Tax registration. They said it was about getting foreign e-service providers to register for taxes.
Right, but that explanation didn't fly.
Not really. Especially not in a country where, social media isn't just entertainment. It's a lifeline for news, for connection, everything. And when the median age is 25.
Yeah, that hits differently. It sounds like censorship, authoritarianism, even if they say it's just taxes.
Precisely. That perception took hold almost immediately.
And wasn't there something about which platforms were banned? That fueled suspicion too, right?
Absolutely. That was a key point. The ban was selective.
How so?
The big one left out was TikTok. China's TikTok.
Oh, okay.
So right away, people started connecting dots. Is this about getting closer to Beijing? It wasn't just domestic policy anymore. It became geopolitical, almost overnight, in the public mind.
Wow. So that specific exemption, that was like throwing fuel on the fire.
It really was. It ignited this powder keg of frustration that had been building for a long, long time.
And you mentioned deeper issues. What was in that powder keg? What were those long simmering frustrations?
Well, a big part of it was the visibility of elite privilege. There was this trend, you probably saw it, the Nepo kid trend.
Oh, yeah, I remember hearing about that on TikTok, Reddit.
Exactly. It showcased the kids of the political elite, living these lavish lives. Foreign degrees, luxury cars, all that stuff.
Right.
And this was being seen by average young Nepalese who are facing like 20% youth unemployment. The per capita income is just $1,400 a year.
That contrast is just brutal, seeing that online every day.
It made abstract concepts like corruption feel incredibly real, very personal. It wasn't just numbers in a report. It was right there on their screens. That fuels a special kind of rage.
Yeah, I can only imagine. So economic despair, visible inequality. What else? You mentioned misgovernance.
Yeah, and that's crucial too. It wasn't just the economy. There's this history of chronic political instability.
How bad has it been?
Well, think about this. Since Nepal became a republic in 2008, they've had 14 different governments. 14?
14. Wow. None finished a full term.
None. And almost all of them were bogged down by constant allegations of corruption. Big scandals, too.
Like what?
Well, there was the whole issue around the Pokhara International Airport construction. Huge amounts of money involved.
Yeah.
And then there was that fake refugee scam.
Right. I remember that one, trying to pass off Nepal as Bhutanese refugees to send them to the U.S.
Exactly. Stuff like that happening again and again just completely eroded any trust people might have had in the political system.
Yeah.
It created this deep, deep cynicism.
Okay, so you have the cynicism, the economic pain, the visible inequality, and then boom, this social media ban that feels like censorship and maybe a geopolitical move. The stage was definitely set.
Perfectly set.
So let's get to the protests themselves. They started peacefully, right? Student-led,
Well,
September 8th.
They did. Initially peaceful student demonstrations, but it escalated incredibly quickly, became a nationwide thing.
And not peaceful for long.
No. Things turned violent fast. Protesters ended up torching major government buildings. We're talking the Parliament building, the Supreme Court.
Parliament itself, that's huge.
Huge. And what's also interesting, or maybe disturbing, is how technology was used not just for outrage, but coordination. Online forums, particularly Discord channels, were apparently used to coordinate some of these destructive acts.
Wow, so the same tools that were banned were also being used to organize the backlash.
In a way, yeah, or at least parallel digital tools. The human cost was terrible, too.
What were the numbers?
The reports tallied at least 51 people killed and over 1,300 injured. I think 1,368 was the number.
That's a heavy toll. And the economic damage.
Catastrophic. Over 3,100 crore rupees. That's about, what, $370 million U.S.?
Huge hit. especially for tourism, I imagine.
Devastating for the hotel industry, which is vital for Nepal. And then there was this other marker of just complete chaos.
What was that?
Over 12,500 prisoners escaped during the unrest.
12,000. That just shows a total breakdown of state control.
Complete breakdown. Law and order just evaporated in places.
So, faced with all this, what happened to the government, Prime Minister Ali?
He couldn't hold on. The pressure was immense. He resigned on September 9th.
Just days after the protests really kicked off.
Yes. And then something unprecedented happened. The Nepal army stepped in.
The military took control.
Took control of security, yes. And they started working with the president to find an interim government to steer the country.
That sounds worrying. Military involvement.
It is a significant development, but it also created this political vacuum. And interestingly, it seems to be opening the door for non-traditional leaders.
Like who?
Someone like Kolmagusing. He's a technocrat, not a career politician.
What's his background?
He's highly respected, known for having a clean image, which is obviously appealing right now. And he's credited with ending Nepal's chronic electricity blackouts a few years back.
Ah, someone seen as competent, results-oriented.
Exactly. It reflects this public hunger for competence over just, the usual political maneuvering.
It's a fascinating shift. Now, zooming out a bit, Nepal's in a tricky spot geographically, right?
Yeah.
Between India and China.
Extremely tricky. It's a classic buffer state between these two Asiatic giants. So any instability there has immediate regional, even global implications. India and China watch very closely.
And does this situation echo anything else we've seen in the region recently?
Oh, absolutely. There are what some sources call uncanny echoes of other youth-led uprisings. Think Sri Lanka in 2022.
Right, the Aragalaya.
Exactly. And Bangladesh just last year, 2024. Similar patterns.
What are the common threads?
Usually a specific catalyst like the social media ban here, but underneath, always these deep-seated issues. Corruption, economic hardship hitting young people hard, and then a government crackdown or misstep that ignites it all. And often it leads to the government falling and an interim administration taking over.
So it's almost like a South Asian playbook for societal explosion driven by youth and digital media.
It certainly looks like a recurring pattern, yeah. A stark lesson in the combination of digital connectivity, economic strain, and governance failures.
So, bringing it back to Nepal, what does this all mean for its future? It sounds incredibly volatile. And what lessons can we take away for the wider region?
Well, that's the huge question, isn't it? You have this incredible, powerful youth energy. Can that be channeled into constructive change? Systemic reforms, building a stable democracy. Or does the military's new, unprecedented role signal something else? A potential slide back towards authoritarianism, maybe? Or just continued instability? It's really hanging in the balance.
It really is. And considering this pattern we just discussed, these digitally fueled youth uprisings across South Asia, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? What does it tell us about maybe the vulnerabilities in modern democracies, especially when faced with deep economic inequality and crucially perceived control over information? How might similar tinderboxes, as you called them, ignite elsewhere in our very interconnected world?
That's the thought to leave people with, I think, how fragile things can be when those elements combine.